So, good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. Today, we have Paul filled in from Brewin Dolphin, offering his expertise on interview techniques and CV writing in conjunction with Made Futures. So, just to give you a bit more information about what Brewin Dolphin is, they're one of the UK's leading wealth managers, helping businesses seek their ambition through expert personalised financial planning and investment management advice. So, having looked through numerous CVs and holding multiple interviews during his career, Paul will be talking us through his top interview techniques. I will also be going through an example CV and how to make yours stand out when you go to those interviews. So, Paul, before we get started, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a bit more about your role and what you do?
Okay, thanks, Yasmin. Yeah, so I've been at Brewin Dolphin for about 20 years, and in the wealth management industry for 26 years. So I feel very old at the moment. As I say, a wealth manager. I look after about 150 clients. I manage their money, investing in stock market related type investments. And I specialise in advising entrepreneurs and business owners in the main. Hence the involvement we made in the Midlands.
Yeah, definitely. And thank you for joining us today, Paul. We really hope that your techniques and the top tips that you put across to us today will really resonate with the job seekers, as you have so much experience and are a perfect fit to do this today. So, first of all, I would just like to discuss how to present yourself in an interview and what job seekers can do to make themselves stand out. So it can be quite a daunting thing at times, can't it? And it can be hard to be yourself during an interview, especially when you know that people are analysing you and judging you. So, as somebody who's interviewed so many people before, what would you recommend to job seekers to avoid during an interview? How should job seekers present themselves during that time?
Okay, so the main tip certainly would be turn up on time. Don't be late. If you're late for an interview, it immediately sets a bit of a negative tone in the mind of the employer. So I suppose a tip would be make sure you're plenty of time. I don't know how people are going to get there, whether it's car or bus, so you have to take account of traffic, etc. I would even plan the journey beforehand. So if you got the time, go and recce it the day before. Go along, find out where they are, because it's easy, as you know, these days it's easy to get lost. In terms of how you present yourself, certainly, I'll take this literally. Dress appropriately. So somebody who's interviewing you isn't going to want to see you in a tracksuit, or not saying you would, or trainers or jeans. I think it depends on the job that you're going for. If it's an office-based role, stick a shirt and tie on for the chaps certainly, or a smart suit for the ladies going for it. Um, but judge the job. Ultimately, just be sensible. But dress smart is probably the best way to put it. And then just one other thing. Obviously, if you are walking somewhere and you're expecting wet weather, bring a brolly so you don't get wet.
Yeah.
I know obvious things, but it's just these little things that people will watch out for.
Yeah, definitely. And it's a good reminder, especially, if anybody watching or anybody watching the recording of this event, if you're just going to an interview, these are the little things that you don't tend to think about. It's sort of the big things, isn't it? And these little impressions are actually really important. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, thank you for that, Paul. So, another question: what would you recommend job seekers bring to an interview? Whether it's some sort of documentation or just things that will help them during that time.
Okay. Um, so I know the interviewer is likely to have it already, but I would bring along a CV, copy of your CV, just so you've got it in front of you. Um, a little tip would be bring along like a folder, a notebook and pen, so you've got it in front of you if you need to jot things down. Um, it really depends on the job, but examples of work that you've got depends on what it is, or documentation, as you've said. It really does depend on the company that you're going for, what you have in front of you. You don't have to do that, obviously, but the most important thing to bring along definitely is questions. So have some questions up your sleeve beforehand, um, and also ones that you might come along with, come up with as you go along. So hence the, the pad and paper. That's a good idea. But there are some things that you shouldn't ask. So this is quite a key. First one, what does the company do? That basically shows that you haven't done any research at all beforehand, so a bit of a lack of interest. So you could instead ask something like, I saw that the company do this. Can you tell me a little bit more about it? That's one thing. Another one, don't ask about, can I move into another area of the business? It basically shows the person interviewing you that you're just using the role for something else, a stepping stone. So another way would be, what are the promotion prospects? What prospects are within the company? That's not a problem. And then definitely don't ask this one. How did I do? How did I do? It's really, really awkward if that gets asked. Essentially, what you're doing is you're showing that you're fishing for compliments. So something instead, when can I expect to hear from you, would be a good way. So
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, definitely. So, the sort of questions interviewees should bring to the interview. What sort of questions would you recommend? Ones that stand out, the ones that impress you, essentially, when you're interviewing people.
Okay, so this is questions that they would ask us as opposed to us asking them. Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
First of
Okay.
all.
So I would. It really, really does depend on the job that you're going for. So yeah, as I've said, it would be things like, I mean, I've already mentioned it. How did what does the company do? What does the role entail? And judge it to yourself. Those are very. It shows that you've got a level of interest and
Mm,
research on the business.
mm,
So yeah, have a few things up your arm. I mean, certainly for manufacturing sector, which is generally what you're talking about here,
mm,
is research. Do a little bit of research on the business. If there's something that you don't quite understand, the person who's interviewing you, they're going to love that, the fact that you're asking them their expertise. What about this certain area? What does it
mhm.
mean? So yeah, those type of things I would certainly ask.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for that. So now just switching to the other side. So what are the sort of questions that interviewees can expect from employers that, are more than likely to come up if they go for an interview, whether it be in the manufacturing sector or otherwise?
Yeah. Okay. So if I can give you a few here. These are commonly asked questions. So something like, where do you see yourself in the next few years? Where do you see yourself in 5 years' time? What the interviewer is doing is they're trying to find out that you've thought about the future. They're gauging your ambition. Also, that it's not just that stopgap for you. So I would certainly tailor it to the organisation, as I've mentioned before, and the type of career that you're interviewing for. So manufacturing. So let's just say you're going in for entry level type of role. Um, a good answer could be, I see myself moving up the ladder to whatever role it is.
Mm,
That would be a good way of doing that. Another one, tell me about yourself. That's an obvious one. Keep it pertinent to the job. Tell them about your education, your work experience. But really important, they don't want to hear your life story. They don't want to hear about your gran or something, or your pet dog.
yeah.
It's pertinent to the job, really. What are your weaknesses? That's another one. One of the worst answers you can give is, I haven't got any. I've heard that loads of times. Somebody hasn't got a weakness. Why are they interviewing? They should have a job already.
Yeah.
So everyone's got one. Tell the interviewer, a good way of turning this around. Tell the interviewer about a weakness, but how you've taken steps to turn that around and what you're trying to do to improve yourself in this respect.
Mm,
Um, you know, can you, for example, you know, you're nervous. You're a nervous type of person, or something like that. Have you done courses? Do you force yourself? I don't like I never used to like public speaking. I used to hate it, but
Hmm.
I went on courses. I forced myself to do it. I'm still nervous doing it. I'm
Yeah.
nervous doing things like this,
Yeah.
but with practice, it's become a lot easier. So
Hmm.
there's things like that, examples that are like. Another one would be, why you for this job? Why should I pick you? Um, this is definitely your chance to shine.
Hmm.
This is your sales pitch effectively. Why are you the best choice for that role? Um, so it's about you demonstrating what you bring to the party, certainly.
Yeah.
Um, so an answer may be, I see that you're looking for somebody in this role for this role, and in the past I have, tell them a little bit about your experience,
Yeah.
what you've done.
Yeah.
And then another one definitely would be, have you got any, if do you have any questions? As I've said before, always yes. You've always come armed with questions because
Yeah.
they're expecting you to.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
just got another one little anecdote that I'd like to just throw into this one.
Yeah, yeah, of course.
One question that we ask people is, who is your personal hero and why? So you will get these odd little intricacies, So another one would be, if you were a type of food, what would you be? That type of thing.
Yeah.
You get these odd ones here and then. Don't worry about it. It's just a little bit of finding out about your personality. But the personal hero one is quite funny. There isn't a wrong answer, but it's amazing how many people will answer one of two things. One of them is my dad, which is lovely. It's a nice thing, or my mum, something like that. I really like that. But Sir Alex Ferguson has come up more times than you would believe. And it always just makes me laugh.
Yeah.
Very, very often. It shows you how many Man United fans are out there, how much they love him.
Yeah.
But it comes up all the time. Sir Alex.
Maybe it's a thing with the finance people then, as you're recruiting for finance.
It is amazing, honestly. It's we did some interviews recently where there was about 10 people going for a job, and three of them separately said Sir Alex Ferguson.
Oh.
Quite,
Well, hopefully Sir Alex Ferguson is still their hero. Let's
yes,
hope that.
but it's not a bad hero to have, is it? Is it? An absolute legend. So yeah.
No, definitely not. So, Paul, just going back to the question that you mentioned, what are your weaknesses? Is there a way that the interviewees can sort of turn that on its head by mentioning their weakness, but then, using it as, that this could potentially be a strength, or, I'd like to develop that in this way. So, how could they turn it into a positive?
Yeah, like I said before, really, it is about it's showing a willing to learn almost, So, for example, somebody could find themselves a disorganized individual, and they've taken active, or I want to take active steps to make that better. I want to learn technology. There's so much technology about how you can organize yourselves these days. It could be, one that I was terrible at when I was younger, when I was moving up the ladder, was delegation. I was useless at it. I felt bad about passing jobs over that I used to do to
Mhm.
somebody else. But you find a way of learning these things. So by pointing out a weakness isn't a problem, because nobody's perfect. Everybody has a
Yeah.
weakness. It's just, how can you improve yourself?
Hmm.
How do you make it better? By demonstrating that, it shows you willing to learn.
Yeah.
What are
Yeah.
your
Most
thoughts on that? Yeah.
definitely. Thanks for that, Paul. So, just have a few more questions before we go off and look at the example CV, and Paul will talk us through that. But our next question is, what are your 5 interview techniques that you believe are a must for job seekers getting into any industry?
Okay. Yeah. So, very, very easy to say this one, but try not to ramble. You want to get your answers across, um, but don't answer it 5 times in a different way. Because we hear that all the time. I think I would be good at this job because of blah blah blah, and then you go back and you keep going and you're just saying the same thing over and over again. You'll just basically lose the interviewer by doing that. Um, Pretty much another one contradicting that would be, don't be too short with the answers. Don't say too little. A yes or no answer, for example, without any explanation, it won't get your personality across. So it's about finding the balance between the two, really. Thirdly, take your time. You know, if somebody asks you a question and you're a little bit stumped at first, don't worry about it. Nobody is going to hold that against you. You know, have a think about it, have a sip of water, relax. The interviewer will certainly understand that. Um, Again, coming back to that one, it's very, very simple to say because interviews can be very nerve wracking, but you know, try to relax, try to stay calm if you can. The person who is interviewing you, always have this in mind. They're not trying to catch you out. They don't want you to fail. They want you to do well. So always have that in mind. An interviewer isn't going in there thinking, "Oh, I want to see how terrible these are." They're on your side. They're rooting for you. So just try to remember that and just relax. It calms you down if you think like that. And then I suppose more specifically for the manufacturing sector, and indeed any sector, to be honest with you, you do genuinely need to be interested in work in that industry and try to get this across. Do lots of research, find out about what you're interviewing for. The more you know, or in fact, indeed, if you show that you're willing to know, the better that will come across.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Definitely. Thanks for that, Paul. So there's some really, really good advice in there. So before we move on to the CV writing section, do you have any last thoughts or advice for the job seekers that you believe, yes, this is something they should definitely know?
Okay, so just it's really again a really simple thing. Be yourself. Just be yourself. If you pretend to be something that you're not, it will come across definitely. Ultimately, people hire people. You know, they want to see a little bit of your personality. So just let your own personality come across in an interview.
Yeah.
Certainly, the people that we've hired, that's been one of the main reasons. You know, a lot of the
Mm-hmm.
people have got great CVs. They interview really well. They answer all of the questions like they should do, and it's very fine margins. And it is the ones where we find that they're the most personable. They've got the personality that we think will fit in. That tend to thrive, that tend to get the jobs. So yeah, it's just don't be something that you're not. Be yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, most definitely. Okay, great. Thank you for that, Paul. There's some really, really good points made there. And we will be posting this video for everybody attending the exhibition on Brewin and Dolphin stand. So if you want to go back and have a look at this, take any notes or anything like that, you can view it on Brewin and Dolphin stand at the Made Futures exhibition. However, now we're going to discuss CVs, which is another sort of daunting part of finding a job, is making sure that your CV is right. And when you land in that interview, you know, making sure you've got that right too. So CVs can also be a daunting thing, especially if you feel like the jobs you've had in the past don't really reflect the new job that you're applying for. However, Paul has created an example CV to show us all today, which can also be found in the Made Futures book on page 99. So if anybody who hasn't signed up to the exhibition yet, if you sign up to the exhibition, you will get a free copy of the book and you will get this example CV in there. So I'm going to share my screen now so that you can all see this example CV and Paul will talk us through it. So here we go. Hopefully that will appear in a moment. There we go. Perfect. So you can see that, right, Paul?
Yeah, I can see it. Yeah. So Yasmin actually had to make this a little bit bigger than it normally would be because you couldn't see it on the screen. So normally it'd be a little bit smaller to fit into the page, but needs must. So in all honesty, I don't plan on going into this in too much depth on here because it's quite self-explanatory. So if you go and look into the book, in the book or in a different way, it's self-explanatory on the piece of paper here. So the first tip really is to try and keep it to a couple of pages maximum. Employers, they will get hundreds of CVs a year. So basically, it sounds really horrible, this, but you don't want to bore them. You don't want to bore them. So try and keep it short. Use bullet points. Keep it succinct in what you're saying. So bullet points are a good way of doing that. At the top here, you can see name, address, mobile, email. Make sure you put those in. I have had CVs that haven't got contact details. They've got their name and nothing else. So how are you meant to contact them? Something so simple that people have missed. Going further down a little bit. The first thing I should say, it is highlighted here. No spelling or grammatical errors in there. So usually, people will use Word or something similar these days, so it'll underline if there are problems. But it's very important that your spelling is correct. So go through it 2, 3, 4 times, double check, get somebody else to double check it. If there's a spelling error there, it will be spotted, and in all honesty, you'll immediately be put on the no pile. So that is really, really important to get that right. So as it says in the profile, really here, I won't go through each of these, but it's about telling the employer about yourself, about what what your personality's like, what you're good at, can you communicate well, what new skills are you willing to learn, this is about selling yourself, really. Then on the next section really is, as we say, is training courses, any training that you've done, as it says here, health and safety, risk assessment, anything, literally anything, you can stick that down on there. Your experience, what jobs have you done in the past? Now, if you haven't got any jobs in here, have you done any work experience? Did you do work experience at school or when you were at college? Have you worked behind a bar? Have you worked in a supermarket? Have you done any voluntary work? People love voluntary work. Were you on the university debating society? Have you worked in a charity shop? Literally anything in here can demonstrate that you can push it towards a work environment, really. It's all experience. So even if you haven't had a job yet, there will be something that you have done that will help you out here, certainly. So get something in. Obviously, education is quite important. So stick in what what grades you've had, what courses you've done. Don't make stuff up here. If you do, it will be found out after you've got the job, and you won't get the job. So evidence is always sought on these things. So make sure it's factual with what you've got. And then moving further down, interests. Certainly tell them about what you do, a little bit about your personality, what you like doing. Do you like, as it says here, it's all very interesting. It's starting to get over your personality. And then references below. If you have had a job before, companies will check your references. Again, make sure these are real. Make sure that they're credible. So ensure that they're on there. Okay, so really, that's it. This is the first part of a CV. Is the first part of selling yourself. So ask other people to check them for you before you send them off. Get somebody to read through them. Let them give you honest feedback on it, or amend it if they feel that it's the right thing to do. You can use, obviously, friends, family, teachers, tutors, other professionals. Reach out to people. Everybody would be willing to give you a hand here with these type of things to get it right. So yeah, it's important that you do that. But as I've said, most importantly, and I really can't emphasize this enough, no spelling or grammatical errors. Very, very important, because you will just go onto the no pile. We get them where there's something wrong. It can be a great CV and there'll be a few spelling errors. It just goes in the no pile.
Yeah.
Really, really harsh. But when you get in, as we did for a recent job, we got 80 CVs for a position, and loads of really good CVs. You have to sift them out. If there are errors on there, it's very, very harsh.
Yeah.
But that's just the way it is.
Definitely. And Paul, what about the sort of style and the format of the CV as well? Because on here, obviously, you mentioned that we've made this a little bit bigger. What would the sort of size font that you would usually see in CVs that makes them stand out, or look more professional than others that you may have seen before?
Yeah, well, obviously keep the font the same is one thing. So you don't want to be having different fonts on there, veranda and I don't know Arial or whatever, of different spots. Keep them all the same size. You want to see it as if somebody like me with glasses on is reading it, so you don't want it too small. Um, as I say, bullet points over a couple of pages. Where there's a bit that you're changing, like profile, it says on the side training courses, put that in bold. It's all very simple stuff. It's just about formatting it so it looks right. I mean, if you
Yeah.
go online or anything, there's loads of examples of CVs on there,
Hmm.
how you set them out. Some people recommend putting a photo of yourself on there. I don't think it matters either way. I'm not fussed whether I can see someone's face before or not, really.
Yeah.
So it is. I think they do it a lot in America, but over here I'm not sure.
Yeah.
So you see them every now and again, but I don't think it matters either way.
Perfect. Thank you very much for that, Paul. So, guys, I'm just going to stop sharing my screen now. So hopefully you can just see myself and Paul there. So thanks so much for joining us today, Paul, and offering your time to give your expertise over to the job seekers for interview techniques and CV writing. So thanks again for everybody watching and for joining us today. Like I mentioned, you can view this back either on our YouTube channel, on Made in the Midlands YouTube channel, or you can watch it at the Brewin Dolphin stand at the Made Futures event, which is taking place from the 22nd till the 26th of March. And again, if you'd like to see that example CV that Paul's just shown us there, you can find this in the Made Futures book on page 99. But other than that, thank you very much again for joining us today. Thank you again to you, Paul, and we hope you
Thanks
have a
for
lovely
having
day.
me, and good luck to everybody as well with CVs and interviews, certainly.
Yes, definitely. Good luck to everybody, and we hope you found this this video here today very useful.
Okay, thank you.
Cheers. Bye.